You're listening to WeDeepen Media.
Hello, and welcome to an episode of Deepen with Christina. I'm your host, Christina Weber, founder of WeDeepen, leader of the Love Club. Today, we are bringing you a mastermind for your love life. This session is inclusive of WeDeepen Love Club members. So you might hear from them as the conversation unfolds. You have my favorite guest, one of my favorite guests. Okay, Yossef, I just said favorite guest, and now I'm like, one of my favorite guests.
And you retracted it.
I know I retracted it. I think I have to give it to you now. You have just earned the title of favorite guests, Yossef Sagi. Yossef Sagi has been on the podcast with me 2 times in the past. You can search through and see. We've talked about love, relationships, spirituality, reality transurfing. Actually, I don't know if we've gotten into reality transurfing yet. That's a future conversation we can have. And we've, of course, spoken about the erotic. If you have listened to Deepen with Christina in the past, you may notice that an episode hasn't released in quite some time, but we're back. So starting today, as you're listening to this episode, from now on, a new show will release every Sunday. And if you're a member of the Love Club, every other Tuesday, you will have the opportunity to join and be a part of the conversation with us. I will introduce you to the most extraordinary teachers of love and relationship, leaders. And these are people who have a particular skill set. It could even be around storytelling, because you will hear from Colleen Schell, who's my storytelling coach. And one of the reasons why I bring storytelling into the mix of your love life, because as a WeDeepen Love Club member, that's exactly what you'll be doing. I believe that your intimacy journey is your life story. So I'm always looking for, what is it? Like, what new frameworks, what experiences, what conversations can I be having that will essentially make my life feel like a movie? I don't have a TV at home. So I prefer to go out in the world and live a very interesting life, and then also have friends who are doing the same, people with inside of the Love Club, and then we get to share those stories together. And it's all about growth, transformation, becoming a better version of myself. Today, we're going to dive into the erotic, and a couple reasons why is, first, it is the top of 2026. We've just celebrated the new year. We've celebrated the new year. And by the way, do you guys know that the first Sunday after the New Year's, it's called Dating Sunday. It is the highest populated time on dating apps. More people are online than any other time of the entire year, which is meaning that people are hungry for love and intimacy. And especially as AI is coming further into the forefront, I see that there is a need, and I will give it a need. I sometimes stay away from that word need, but a need and a desire to be in spaces where your hormones release, like you can feel the oxytocin. I cannot feel oxytocins, although my AI love coach is a great love coach at time, but I cannot get the oxytocin and the vesperosin and all the GABA and all the neurotransmitters hitting from that. But I can in spaces where my the perfect one of my another favorite human teacher, Francesca Gentile, talks about that each of us need a particular hormone mix up, and some of us get that from erotic energy. And there's safe spaces, because when you're in relationship, or even when you're currently single, you're seeking to keep your relational life as that storytelling juice, the novelty. And there are spaces now available. Some of you might have heard of a play party. But it sounds, if you've never been to a play party, it sounds pretty scary. I mean, there's some sexy hot ones like Kinky Rabbit Club, which you look at some of the images and you're like, oh my God, it's just a bunch of models and hot people. And like, I don't think that's intimidating. And then there's other spaces that are, there's a different pulse check on each community. But one of Yossef Sagi, his experience Mystery Temple, it's one of the fastest growing play parties in Los Angeles area. He'll be in Austin, Texas on January 22nd to host an almost temple. So it's not a full-on play party. It's a halfway play party. We're going to go into that. We're going to talk about it. And Yossef, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Third time already with you here. It's been a long arc of the types of conversations we've been having. So it's always good to be back.
Yeah.
Experience your curiosity.
That's what we're going to get into. And Lauri's here with us too. So as we dive into the conversation, you might hear some questions from Lauri. Lauri, have you ever been to a play party?
Went to the Kinky Classroom, and that was the closest I've been to a play party. Which is also awesome.
Yossef is the teacher of Kinky Classroom. It is Yossef, actually, you tell us, what is a Kinky Classroom?
Do you want to start with Kinky Classroom?
Let's start with Kinky Classroom because Lauri's been there. Let's let him know what Lauri's experience is. I'll tell you my experience, and then we'll dive into the play party scene.
Perfect. So Kinky Classroom is actually something that I started for my friends. My friends knew that I was getting into kink, and for the most part, in my group of friends, I've been the pioneer in most things sexual. So when it came to exploring group play, when it came to certain things, like I came back from Burning Man and I had a 5-some in the Orgy Dome, and everyone's like, "Oh my goodness, tell us more about it." And then I got into kink first in my group of friends as well, more or less. And so they were like, "Oh, teach us about it." And Kinky Classroom was just a fun thing that I created that for my friends, but where I got to use a lot of different parts of me. There's a part of me that is like an actor and a performer, and I got to use that. There's a part of me that's a teacher because I started my career in children's education. And then there's the part of me that's the kinkster. And so I got to bring it all together. And what Kinky Classroom is, it's everyone comes in as students, and they have to come in dressed up as schoolboys and schoolgirls or teachers and other kinds of staff from the school, and they all show up. And I'm teaching them basically the 101 of kink, the psychology of kink, the biology of kink, the chemistry of kink. There's show and tell, there's recess, there's group projects. So everything's structured very much like you're going to school. I even have a teacher's pet who's a human on a leash that sits by my feet and is my submissive and my demo for everything that I do. I have a chalkboard, and the whole thing is sort of like you're going to school, but you're learning kink in a really fun, immersive, interactive way. And then sometimes for Kinky Classroom, most of the time, I'll also add in recess is like the play party. So after you've learned everything, there's a choice. You can stay for recess and play with everything that you've learned with the other people in the group, or you can, class is dismissed and you can go home, depending on your choosing.
It was so fun to bring that here to Austin, Texas, and share it with the WeDeepen community.
I'd love to hear how the experience was for both of you, actually.
Well, before we jump into that, I would love to have you share a bit of your background. So you don't just sound like a horny man. Let's actually get into the specifics.
I'm also a horny man. I contain multitudes, Christine. I don't want to reject that part of it. Yeah.
Well, Yossef, you and I were friends, and you also were my coach. I am certified by as ICF, the International Coaching Federation, and I was certified by IPEC. And when I went through that training with about 50 other people in my class, you were our lead trainer. So you're a master coach. You grew up in studying spirituality. You have studied with ISTA, correct?
Yes, that's right.
So give us a little bit more of your professional background.
my background has always been in the realm of personal development. That's what I've always done. I did teach spirituality. I taught Kabbalah specifically. From my 20s, I taught social emotional education to at-risk youth. I became a coach through IPEC, and then they hired me to be their lead trainer, which is where I trained you as well. I've studied somatics. I've studied Tantra. I'm a certified tantric massage practitioner. I'm a dom. I've studied that as well. So there's a lot of different modalities that I brought in. And if I really look back, my life has always been, my two biggest fascinations were spirituality and sexuality. The difference is that I put all the attention on the spirituality and personal development. And a big chunk of the beginning of my life was a repression of my sexuality, where I saw my sexuality be at odds with my spiritual growth. Oh, no, you're too horny, you're too sexual. You got to put that away so that you can become spiritual. And that actually was just a rejection of a part of me. And that's why I claimed that part, because it was actually the more that I embraced that part of me and I found interweaving between my sexuality and my spirituality, that my calling really came forth. And so everything that I do today is it is a personal development journey, but it's through the lens of sexuality, specifically because sexuality is the part where people carry the majority of their shame and their repression. And if you can't integrate that part of yourself, you can't truly be whole. You can't truly grow as a person. And that's the part that I find people most reject about themselves. And that's why I meld those worlds together. And I draw from modalities that come from all of those different worlds.
There's a famous quote. I'm not quite sure who said it. You might know. Adults play through sex.
Yes. Amina Peterson. Yeah. I don't remember the name. Yes. Sex is how we play as adults.
And it's also one of the places where we can get triggered really easily. So as we work through those triggers, you can become a deeper version of yourself. You get to, I think your nervous system expands to steady itself. And it's not to say that, sometimes when I am speaking with some couples and they have a solid relationship and then they decide to expand to poly, I witness it nearly as though they've just went and stood in front of a moving bus. So I'm not necessarily inviting that in. I'm like, hey, go into this experience to see how you can traumatize yourself to then heal from the trauma that you've experienced at a play party scene. There are some experiences that you might embark on, or some settings that might not be as safe for you. I do know of people who've gone into, say, a swinger scene and felt like there was a lot of alcohol and it wasn't their vibe. But what I really love about what you're doing at Kinky Classroom and Mystery Temple and Almost Temple is that there's a mix of self-development as well as in the erotic energy. And I see couples coming into those spaces, and sometimes they will just stay with one another and they will experience the whole thing together. And then they will go home and get to deepen their relationship in ways that aren't available if you were to go to dinner and a movie. And it for sure can bring up all types of things, but the people in the space, not only yourself, but the angels and the team that are supporting everybody else, you're able to frame it in a really safe way. We will come back and answer the questions before the end of it about mine and Lauri's experience at Kinky Classroom. However, what is it when you're framing an almost temple or a mystery temple? How do you create a space where no matter what level you're at, maybe you've been swinging for decades or you've never stepped foot into an environment like that? And there's also that dynamic of, oh my gosh, I'm a single woman stepping into the space. That's wild. Or I'm in a relationship that, each relationship is balancing a whole other energetic in itself. Sometimes like I'm in a secure relationship and it's amazing, or I'm a little bit anxious in my relationship. How do you frame it for anybody in any level, in any situation, so that they feel safe at these experiences? And then what happens there?
That's a lot of questions, and I'll see how many of those I can check off and remind me if I missed anything. Um, First of all, I want to say that my events are sober, and that's a big factor. Most play parties out there aren't sober. And the reason that they aren't sober is because they feel they need some kind of social lubricant to get over the social anxiety that happens and the fear of rejection. And Mystery Temple, I actually frame it that it's a personal development workshop carefully disguised as a play party. But really what it is a personal development workshop where sex can happen. But it's as much as it's a high opportunity container, it's a zero pressure container. So you can come in there and be a voyeur and observe. You can come in there as a monogamous couple and just stay with your partner. And you can come in there and walk out of there being like, wow, that was my first bisexual orgy. So there's so many different experiences can happen at Mystery Temple because the opportunity is there, but everything is done intentionally. And that's why it's sober. Because my intention isn't to just create a space where people can hook up. If you want that, there's plenty of other places to look. My space is to create an environment where you will be met with an energy that could be challenging, could be edgy, could be exciting, and will move you to your next level. So if you're there and you have a fear of rejection, you get to sit with that. If you're there and you have some kind of anxiety about the way that you look or the way that you act, that's a mirror that will reflect you there. Anything that you're bringing into the container isn't something that was created by the container. It's something that exists inside of you, and you get to just see it and find it in the container, which is why we create a space that facilitates that growth. So the way that looks is we have an hour and a half of structured content at the beginning, connection exercises, ways to ground in the space. We have the guardians. You said angels. They're guardians, we call them, who are people in this space that don't play, and they're just there to give emotional support and connection for people when they need it. And also, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. So everything is choose your own adventure in that space. You can sit in the kitchen and have snacks and talk to other people. You can be in a cuddle puddle. You can watch a performance, or you can jump right into the action. All of it is available. And my group is a very diverse group in every kind of way. We have straight people and we have queer people. We have people who came from the swinging world, people who came from the tantra world, people who came from the kink world, and people who are complete newbies and haven't been to an event like this that feel comfortable at Mystery Temple because of the safety and the opportunity of our container. And everyone meets their edge. For some of the people who are the more tantric, energetic types, they might be there and it might be edgy for them, like, oh, wow, people are just jumping into sex. We don't typically do that. But then for some of the swingers who come in there, they're like, oh my God, we're doing eye gazing first. That's not something I've ever done. That's way too intimate for me. Can we just fuck? Right? So everyone meets their edge in the space and everyone gets to grow from it. And we grow, I believe, and this is my life philosophy, we grow more through pleasure and ease than we grow through challenge. We do grow through challenge, no doubt about it. But I feel when we're in a place where there's pleasure and ease, our heart is so much more open to the opportunity of growth. So that's Mystery Temple. And Mystery Temple has a variety of different themes that sort of like instigate what we're working on as a group for the night. So my next theme here in LA is called Erotic Avatar. I give it a spin this time. It's called Animalia. It's like pick an animal and pick their avatar to be in the year. Are you a tiger that hunts their prey? Do you prefer to be the deer that wants to get caught and ravaged? Are you a pack animal that likes to get all cuddly with other people? Like, what's your erotic avatar? But that's only one theme. I have one called Oh My Goddess, which is all about empowering the feminine and letting her lead in the space. I have one called Sacrilegious, which is all about religious deconditioning. I have one called Playgasm, which is all about can we just be silly with our sexuality and playful. So the different themes will bring forth a different invitation from the group. That's Mystery Temple. And then there's Almost Temple.
Well,
I'm trying to answer all your questions, but yeah.
how do people dress for these experiences? If there's themes, are they dressing in the theme? Are they wearing lingerie?
I typically release a recommended dress code for every theme. It's not like, oh, if you're not dressed like this, you can't come in. You wear whatever makes you feel sexy or comfortable in that space. And that's always available. But yes, different themes call for different opportunities for people who want to engage in expression. Animalia is obviously going to be something from the animal world. What is that archetype you're stepping into? Sacrilegious people usually wear something from their own religious or cultural upbringing to try and transmute and heal that. I have a Night of Light and Shadow, which is my shadow work one, where people dress in usually black or white and silvers and golds. So there's different themes with different recommended dress, but no one gets turned away based off of their dress or lack thereof.
If someone has never been to a play party and is feeling some anxiety around joining, how would you tell them to prepare themselves?
Everyone gets to prepare for the event. And I send an email out to participants ahead of the event. One of the most important things to prepare is to watch it's about a 15-minute consent video. And it shares one of our consent frameworks and how we use consent at Mystery Temple. And when you're looking at the consent framework, another thing that it happens to do is it happens to awaken any desires and boundaries that you have within you. So sitting with that consent video, starting to feel into your desires and boundaries is a great preparation. And then knowing that it's okay to come nervous and that it's normal to come nervous is also a part of it. If it's your first event of any type, you're going to be nervous. You don't know how to orient yourself in the space. But you come a few times, you see some people that you recognize, it becomes a space you know how to navigate. It becomes easier after a few times. It's okay to come nervous. Nerves are just a type of excitement and anticipation.
Thank you. What's an Almost Temple?
So Almost Temple was something that I created because I was invited to speak at a festival in Guatemala. And it was like a Tantra meets acro yoga type festival. And they were okay with like pink Tantra. So no like full sex type events, but they had a lot of sensual type things. Now, after the festival was over, I was planning on having a Mystery Temple in Guatemala as well. So the idea that I had was, what if I can give them a taste of it? And that's why I created Almost Temple 4. Almost Temple is a space where we really get to settle into the energy of anticipation, the energy that's between, the energy that's just before but not quite there. It's the energy of almost. And a lot of times that's something that we blow way past in our life in general. You get a meal and you just scarf it down immediately, right? But there's a beauty to like take that piece of food and smell it and think about how it's going to taste before it even gets to your mouth. So this is like a 2-hour practice where I edge the entire group into their almost space. So there's almost kissing, but there's no kissing. There's an almost touching. There's really playing with all different types of energies, learning to see where our desires are, where our boundaries are, learning to appreciate the space that exists in between. And I can tell you that when I did the Almost Temple in Guatemala and I had 40 people in the group, by the end of it, and then when I shut it down, I was like, and I have Mystery, if you want to experience more than almost, I have a full Mystery Temple next week. And I immediately sold the event out because everyone was just hungry to get there after edge for 2 hours. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I can see how you open them up and how the couples are riding the wave and the individuals are riding the wave and excited to see each other again because those bonds that are created are intimate. And it's also, as whether you're I think of the times when I was in my 20s and single and you go out to a bar, club, and, there's times I've gone where I haven't been intimate with anyone in quite some time and I just want to feel that level of intimacy. So you hope that some spark connects while you're out at the bar or the restaurant and maybe, just like you have that opportunity for the one night stands. Not to say that I'm a one night stand person, but that's like the magic, something that happens when you wake up at their place the next morning. And I stopped drinking alcohol mostly. Like I rarely drink alcohol. So I don't have those like chance encounters. That was one of the things that actually when I stopped drinking alcohol, that I first was like, oh, where am I going to have like, how am I going to have a novel, random experience? And that's what this does. It's like, I don't know how this, because sometimes that level of intimacy is what actually creates the lubricant, I guess I'll say, or gel that actually slides into a deeper relationship and has you, talk about, like just go there more quickly than you would have if you just, passed by each other at a party at a normal setting.
And that's why I like that the event actually doesn't have alcohol. I get why people use alcohol because you let your guard down. And what I've worked really hard to do, and it's actually quite an art, is to create a sober experience where people still let their guard down, open up their hearts, and become vulnerable. And the benefit of that is you don't question yourself the next day. Did I do it just because of the booze? Because you made those choices consciously in that space. And you can trust that the connections that you made are likely more authentic than ones that are just alcohol based. And I think that's the beauty of it. You can really trust yourself. Wow, I opened up. I let my guard down without it. I connected to someone else without it. And I know that I had enough presence of mind to choose this connection that I have.
Mm. That consent video or preparation video, let's call it, I think it's more of a preparation, it is 15 minutes. Would it also support a couple? Like what conversations should a couple be having before they walk into the space?
That's an excellent question. The consent one is for everybody, for sure. For couples who join the space for the first time, particularly, I always recommend they do a little bit of extra work. It's important for couples to have a conversation before they come to the space. They have to be clear about their own desires and boundaries, just like anybody else. But a third thing that they need to be clear of is their relationship agreements. So there's a difference between a boundary and an agreement. A boundary is something that you hold for yourself. An agreement is something you hold for the relationship. So you might say, oh, I have a boundary. I don't want to have anal sex in the night. But if you say, my boundary is, I don't want you to have anal sex, that's not a boundary. That's an agreement that you have for your relationship. You can't have a boundary for someone else. A boundary is to protect you. An agreement is something you choose for the relationship. So you want to add, what are the relationship agreements for the night? And some things might be like, do we only play together or do we play separate? If we do play separate, do we play in the same room or do we play in different rooms? How far are we willing to engage for the night? Is it going to be just a second base? Is it going to be oral? Is it going to be penetration? Is there a certain amount of time that we want to put on any one interaction? Do we want to make interactions be 30 minutes or less? You can think of all kinds of different ones, but you think about what are some agreements that can make us feel safe. And then when you show up to the event, it's always important to have a caveat that agreements can be rescinded, but I do not recommend opening up more than you agreed when you're there. You can always come back and do more. Sometimes you get there, you're excited, you suddenly want to do more. The other person doesn't want to tell you no. So you end up, sacrificing some of your own boundaries for the sake of the other person. And then suddenly you have bad feelings about it after. But it doesn't mean that you might still get triggered in the space. But if you're triggered within what you agreed upon, then you can have a conversation around that. If you're triggered around something that you felt pressured to agree on in the moment, that's harder to repair afterwards.
So I have gone to a mystery temple in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. When I was there, my clothes never came off. I popped around to different scenes. And when I say different scenes, different areas. And I was highly amused and highly entertained. I guess you could call me a voyeur in some ways. A voyeurism as a voyeur.
Yeah, you were definitely a voyeur in the space. Yeah.
And I was totally content and enlivened from that experience of witness. I have been to other play parties as well, and you know, danced around my lingerie, and sometimes in rare moments, my clothes came off. But I say that because you get to be you in this space. You don't have to do anything that is not true to who you are as a human. Come in with curiosity and openness, but be your. This is not like your identity is set. Be who you are, and you don't have to be swayed in another way. Now, at a almost temple, do clothes come off? Because I know a mystery temple, people can have sex. I think there's specific areas. It's not like that's a free for all in every area, shape or form. There's always safe spaces that
Not near the food because it's not hygienic.
yeah, no food. You could play with food in some ways, but yes.
Then we create a special station for it in that case. So almost temple. I in general, I have different types of events, and we have different boundaries for different types of events. So sometimes nudity is still something that could be beneficial because it's part of someone's own self-expression. So I have a different event that I do in LA called Pleasure Play, which is like a movement dance event that has a sensual aspect to it. There's no penetrative sex at the event. There's no actual touching genitals at all, but I still allow people, depending on the venue and the group, to have nudity or partial nudity at the event because it's part of their self-expression. And similarly at Almost Temple, there's an option for nudity as well because it's part of people's self-expression. And also sometimes we can use it as a boundary system. We can say, for instance, that it only touch areas that aren't covered in clothes. And then people can mark what parts of themselves they're open to touch by how much clothes they leave on or take off. So like you don't go under the clothes ever, or you don't touch any areas that aren't clothed. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but typically for Almost Temple, it is clothing optional.
Yossef, you're in an intimate relationship. You've had a partner for 4 or 5 years?
We're going on 7 in March.
Years. Wow. Yeah. Amazing. How has you hosting Mystery Temple, how has it shifted or transformed your personal relationship?
Hosting Mystery Temple specifically, if that's your question, has made me feel more alive and more self-expressed as a human. And the more that I can be more self-expressed as a person, the more of a whole being that I bring into my relationship. And it's actually something that my partner, Natalie, has sort of seen me into because she saw me doing, I was the lead trainer for IPEC and there were other things that I did that lit me up in a lot of ways. They, checked a lot of the boxes, but they were never quite right. And it was never really in service to myself. I had a pattern in my life where I was a really good shining star in someone else's program. And the Mystery Temple, I had my own coaching practice, but Mystery Temple was really the first forward-facing thing that I created as an offering. So creating that space helped me to really stand in more of my own power and claim myself and put, when you run a business, it's like you're on the line for it. When I'm working for someone else, even if I'm the lead trainer, the lead teacher, I've done this so many times in my life, I'm not taking any risk. It's their risk and I just show up. And here's a risk. So where there's risk, there's the reward of like, wow, I really created this. And that has been a really powerful journey for me, made me show up in a more powerful way in our relationship. So I think it's been really great.
Was there ever a time where either of you were fearful of what this could do for your relationship? Like how this could potentially negatively impact your connection?
I think there's always, fears and concerns about this. We were already not, I would say that we're not polyamorous, but we're also not monogamous. We have some type of openness in our relationship, and that existed prior to Mystery Temple. That being said, Mystery Temple is a lot more forward facing, and there were a lot of edges on it. What Natalie does for work is a little bit more, I wouldn't say it's traditional, because she's actually quite, visionary in what she does, but it's the work it's in the field of tech and futurism and AI and things like that. And my world's a bit more alternative. So there were definitely edges around even like being associated with me, and like, what would that mean? And will people treat that differently? And we've now, after doing this for years, there's been some cross-pollination. There's likely people will see her account or my account on Instagram, and they'll find the other person. And suddenly someone from her world ends up at Mystery Temple, or someone from my world signs up for her program. And it turns out that people want it all. People want it all, and they want to have sex integrated in their life. So I think that was a great lesson for us, even though it was very edgy. And I fault myself even pulling my punches. It's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't put it out there too much. I don't want to affect you. I don't want to affect what you do. And we're not doing anybody any favors when we play small.
That's so true. Sometimes I've had to, as founder of WeDeepen, leader of the Love Club, is, I am role modeling. I aim to be a role model of healthy love and relationships. And I can see, as you put yourself out there in this way, people are watching you. They're watching how you move and how you interact and engage with the relational field at large. And does that come up for you? Because even too, as we step into these spaces, we are all part of a relational field. So there's a level of integrity that I look towards you. And the reason why I feel confident in sharing a Mystery Temple or sharing an Almost Temple Kinky Classroom through the WeDeepen network is because I see how you operate with a high level of integrity, and you're observing the relational field itself. But I hear what you're speaking to with you and Natalie of, sorry, I didn't mean to say the name, but the name came out, your partner, I guess.
But now everybody knows, yeah.
Everybody knows. But yeah, of them being able to, it's just even more important to attune to that relational field and not make it messy. How do you keep yourself, check yourself in a way that as I, move through these erotic spaces, that I'm not messy in any of my business.
Yeah, right. I mean, famous saying, you don't want to shit where you eat, right? So you want to always be safe. And it's really important to always pay attention to the inherent dynamics of any particular container that you're in. So when I'm holding space, when I'm holding my own event, it's very different than when I go to somebody else's play party. When I go to somebody else's play party, of course, I'm still, considering consent and all the other important frames of how do we make people feel safe and all of that. But then when it's my own container, there's extra things that I need to think about, right? So there's the fact that I'm in a position of power, that, people are like, oh, they're coming to my event. And then the question is, oh, are they coming to my event? And then I need to really think, do they want to play with me maybe because they're at my event and I'm in charge, because people have sometimes a fascination with power, or is there something else there? So these are all considerations that have to come into place. And I think the most important thing is to have transparency and communication around all these different things. And there's nothing wrong with playing with power dynamics. I mean, that's what kink is all about. But power dynamics, people should be very aware of the power dynamics that they're stepping into, and all parties should be choosing into them. It shouldn't be taken for granted.
So important, especially because as you're stepping to the space, a baby could be born, which is we're reminded of as there's a baby crying in the background with you, Yossef. Did a mystery
hear the baby?
Yeah, did a Mystery Temple meet baby?
That's unrelated. Sorry about that. But we have had couples meet at Mystery Temple and get into relationships. We've had couples come when the woman was pregnant, have come to Mystery Temple, and even had, it's always beautiful to have a pregnant woman at Mystery Temple and really like embracing her sexuality in this phase of her life. And we've had women who've already given birth, and this was one of my favorite scenes, that she was one of our greeters from Mystery Temple. She was sitting with a big gong behind her, and she was pumping milk from her breasts as she was greeting people, and then sent that milk home to feed her baby and enjoy the rest of the night. And I thought that was such a beautiful activation for her, but really for everybody else in the space.
I don't know what that says about me, but I had a kinky fantasy come up like, oh my God, I want to have a baby at Mystery Temple.
Mystery Temple is 18 and over, so no babies allowed. Not even giving birth to them.
Lauri, have you ever been to a play party? Kinky Classroom is it, right?
Yes, Kinky Classroom was the first time I've been close to a play party, yes.
So tell us, how was Kinky Classroom for you? Let's go back to that initial question that Yossef asked.
Yeah, I went with my partner, and him and I learned more about how we are both pretty vanilla, and like we have a rich sex life to begin with because we learn the erotic blueprints, and then we play in that, and we have complementary. So he's sensual and I'm energetic. And so it's a very complementary erotic blueprint. And so we found that we just discovered even more to deepen, like just like this vanilla, like we really just enjoy the way that we've created our intimacy. And it's like, yeah, we're good with this. So that it was quite interesting to go of like, oh, this is interesting that like there's all these other possibilities. It was really cool to be curious and to learn and to see the different possibilities. And then when we came together, it was like, oh, but we really do just enjoy our intimacy journey and our sexual experiences. And like, we're good with staying within our own little bubble, at least for now, like, because we're both open to in the future, something shifting and changing and expanding. But it was beautiful to witness and then to be like, okay, yeah, actually we're really good. And it deepened what we learned at the first immersion actually about Dom and Sub. It helped us deepen our practice of that in our intimacy. So that was really, really beautiful too.
If you're listening and you haven't heard of the erotic blueprints, like the love languages, there are 5 erotic prints. They are sensual, sexual, kinky, shapeshifter. What's my 5th I'm missing?
Energetic.
Energetic and the energetic. Yes, those are the 5. You can Google the erotic blueprints, take a quiz, find out what yours is. Also, there is an episode of Deepen with Christina titled The Erotic Blueprints with Casey Neal, and we go deep into each print. Thank you, Lauri, for bringing them up and sharing those here. And also, too, if you are listening, Yossef, you also mentioned something about pink tantra as a entryway into tantra. You know, there's pink tantra, there's neo tantra, there is left-handed tantra. Can you give a little, like, how many tantra types are there, and are all of these tantra types inclusive in the Almost Temple, Mystery Temple, in your way of facilitating?
That's a wonderful question, because the people's awareness around what Tantra is very limited. It's like through a Western lens of how does it serve us. But we got to remember that Tantra is the esoteric study of Eastern philosophies, particularly Hinduism. So it is their deeper mysticism, and it actually encompasses everything in life and a way to relate to the entire universe. And Tantra just happens to teach that the universe in its essence is created out of sexual energy, Shakti, the feminine energy. So it has sexuality weaved into it, but it's not always specifically about sex the way we think about it. That being said, there's all these different ways to relate to Tantra. So starting with left-handed Tantra versus right-handed Tantra, these are 2 different paths that the Tantrics took towards enlightenment. the right-handed path being the path of asceticism and disconnection from all things physical. So the more that I can disconnect, I don't have sex, I fast, I meditate for extended periods of time. I like the more you disconnect, the more you can reach enlightenment faster. Whereas the left-hand path is inclusive of the experiences of the physical world. So it's actually like, how can I find God in sex and through the food and through all the different things? And they're just two different paths to enlightenment. Then within that left-hand path, which is the more inclusive path, and that's a bit older languaging, the left and the right-hand path, but there's newer languaging within that left-hand path of white tantra, which is more traditional tantric practices like the meditation and the yoga and using your own sexual energy. And then red tantra, which is more explicitly sexual practices, and then pink being something sensual in between. But these are modern interpretations of the word in order to be able to understand, like what type of workshop you're stepping into, rather than it being an ancient terminology around tantra. And the same with the term neo-tantra. Neo-tantra is like the blend of some basic tantric principles, usually woven with newer practices that have to do with somatics and other practices from around the world. Maybe it's bringing some Taoism into it, like Osho's Tantra is Neo-Tantra. So it's just like new Tantra. It's basically what it is.
My experience at the Kinky Classroom was sexy and fun and playful. I was in a relationship when it happened, but I went there solo. He was out of town. And it was, there's skills that you're learned and developed. For instance, spanking. There's a particular way and an area of how you spank. Do you want it chuddy? Is it chuddy or
Thuddy and stingy?
Thuddy and stingy.
Yeah.
Like, these are the things that you learn at a Kinky Classroom that they didn't teach in sex ed. They didn't teach us how to They didn't teach us how to flog. You learn how to flog. And these are essentially the intimacy activities that the vastness that you can play with. And a lot of us are operating as we, venture into the sexual realm from 16, 17, 18 plus, is that we think it's oral sex and penetration. And there's just so much more that you can play with. And I think it's really important to learn these skills for dating. Because then what I like to have people consider as they're going out to date, so they can slow things down and don't just end up in a relationship really quickly with the wrong person, as Alan DeBott's book and his TED Talk and essay on is Why You Marry the Wrong Person. We marry the wrong person because we don't understand our own neuroses and we just want to check the box off. Like, I found the person to do the family thing. And when we learn the skills to slow that process down of jumping into relationships so quickly and getting to know somebody, then you can more easily maintain your authenticity. I found for me is that if I'm in a new relationship and I jump in and have penetrative sex right away, then some piece of me, like I've just made the relationship feels it's at a higher risk. Like I could lose something much more now that I went there already. And so my ability to be completely myself has somewhat dimmed too quickly. However, when I start to play with the tools, I'm going to call them tools in the erotic, it's almost like improv. It's like if I study improv, I have more dimensions in social play to play. Like I have more toys to play with. And that's essentially what these spaces provide. So you can slow down. And I say that for when you're dating, but now you're in relationship. And how often do we, after a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you get bored with your partner because sex is also a destination we want to go and travel to and visit. And this gives us more tools in our toolbox for that, more toys. Let's call them toys in our toolbox. And yes, you can go get all the sex toys and vibrators and whatnot and impact instruments. And also, when you have these activities, it brings you into other dimensions that keeps things novel and fun and playful. And it is a muscle and a skill to keep developing, which is why I would encourage couples, even if you're in the vanilla space, to go back again, because you'll be reminded, oh my gosh, we love each other so much. But you have to see the contrast is what gives us that level to really value the connection that we're having with somebody else.
Yeah.
Lauri, as being like, say you were going to come to the Almost Temple, and maybe we will get you to Almost Temple too.
Almost Temple is a lot more in this energetic and sensual, actually, than Kinky Classroom. So it might be a better fit.
Do you have any fears or questions? Like, what would that experience be like for you?
Well, it's funny. Yossef nailed it as he was talking about it. I was like, oh, that would be so fun for my partner and I, because it is right up our alley of like staying in that almost. And we play with that in the day to day because we both need the extended play. And the extended like almost. And so being in a space where that's the intention, I feel like that sounds really fun. And then I noticed that one of my edges would be if we did decide to, expand and see what would it look like to potentially play with others. I had some fears come up. I was like, oh, this is going to be a really good conversation with him because I want to see like, where are we now? Because that was in April of last year. And so we've moved in together. And so like, there's even more like extra levels to the relationship. And so it's like, oh, is this our opportunity to expand and evolve? Or yeah. So I was already kind of thinking, I was like, oh, I'm looking forward to the conversation to see like what else, like has things shifted for him? Like, does this sound like something he would be open to? So yeah, I'm actually really excited.
Oh, great. Well, that's wonderful insight because, first of all, this event comes with its own set of boundaries that are much more constrained than a mystery temple. Like there's things that are just off the table. And sometimes that makes it easier because like, oh, I don't even have to think about that stuff because that's not even going to happen. And that being said, I would also have the same conversation that I talked about, the agreements conversation ahead of time, because you can theoretically come to Almost Temple and just stay with your partner the whole time, although the experience is meant to experience different people. But if you come with your partner and want to stay with your partner the whole time, that's available. And then there are some interactions that are there that you might actually realize, oh, those aren't even like edgy. Like if you've cuddled with other people, or if you've done other stuff like that, then like some of these things aren't even like an edge. And then there's some things that even if they are just energetic might feel edgy. And it gives you an opportunity because, like I said, there's always the opportunity, but there's zero pressure. So in any pairing that you get, even in that pairing, you can choose your level of engagement up into what the container allows, but always down to as little as you want. Like if you want to keep it as like, you know what, let's just stay in the eye gazing for this. You can do that. So there's always an opportunity to engage less. There's not to engage more than what the container is.
So we have about 15 minutes more. Mike, one of our Love Club members, just jumped into the space. Hi, Mike. And we've been here for an hour. Did you know that we started an hour ago?
Yeah, I had a client that was at 6, so I was kind of, it's like, I'll just stop by. I know it's kind of over. I just figured I'd check in.
Amazing. Good to see you. Well, Mike, the topic today that we have been discussing is play parties.
All fun times.
Yes. Yossef is coming into the Austin area. He will be Yes, Thursday the 22nd, hosting an Almost Temple.
Yes.
What is your experience with the play party scene?
Oh, I visited that world many moons ago for a season in my life. And I've been in the Burning Man world for a while. So, I visited several of those places in New York when I lived there. It's been a long, long time. I think I decided at some point I wasn't super aligned with that stuff, but I know of it very well, and I know a lot of folks in that world.
Amazing. Yeah, there's definitely lots of different flavors, lots of different styles of the play party scene, and I was definitely one who, I think one of the weirdest things for me about the first play party that I went to, as being a single woman at that time, walking into a space, and it was intimate, it was small, there was maybe 16 people, and most of the people in the room were couples, and then there was about 3 single women. And I'm used to being in spaces where you don't hit on another man's guy. Like, that is a no-go. And now I'm in an environment with a bunch of couples and a few single women, and I have no clue how to move amongst that space. And I see how energetically it's still something that, as a single woman, you want to attune to a couple and their vibe and put them, as with inside of the WeDeepen ecosystem. One of our guidelines is that we support couples in love. And I love how Annie Lala, one of the coaches in our spaces, will say that, when you see a couple, she's working for, and we're in support of that future child, whether a couple is going to have a child or not. We want to support them as though we're in it for their future children. So that was an awkward thing for me to figure out how I navigate a space with all the different layers, all the different energetic layers in mind.
Those things can be really edgy. There's couples in the space, and I think a lot of times what we do is we project the mononormativity of the world onto every couple that we meet. And it's true that probably out in the world, if you're going to get a slice of pizza and you see a cute couple there, you don't make a move on them because there's no assumption of it. Although you can always shoot your shots and they can always own their no. But when you're going to a play party, I think it's safe to make the assumption that the people are open-minded to the possibility that someone may approach them, even if they're not planning on playing outside of their couple. So they're going there because they have some type of open-mindedness. And I say it, and I feel the same edge around couples sometimes. It's like, oh, it's edgy to go and like flirt with a couple, but that can totally, those things happen, and some of those couples want those things, and they will have just as much nerves about inviting the single person over or inviting another couple over to play. And I've found this at play parties, even sometimes I've been with my partner and there's another partner in the hot tub beside, and like everyone's just kind of like awkwardly just looking at each other, and then one person will break the ice and everyone else will be like, oh, thank God you said it. Let's all, and it's fine. Or they can be like, oh, thank you so much. I'm so honored. And I don't know if we're ready for it right now. The point is to exercise the muscle of owning your desire, regardless of whether it's accepted or rejected by someone else. Because it's not the acceptance or the rejectance of the desire that makes it real or that gives it permission. It's you owning it. So you get to ask for what you want, because that's a healthy exercise. And you get to state what you don't want, because that's a healthy exercise. And just for the sake of doing those things, there's a lot of power to be at a play party. So even Lauri, if you're going and your agreement ahead of time is we're not going to play with anybody else, it's so healthy to be in a space where you get to exercise that no over and over and over again for the whole night, and own your no, because so many of us, we don't own our no, and own your yes when it comes up, and ask, even if someone doesn't want to do it. It's still great to teach yourself that, you know what, if I have a desire, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to stand up for that desire. I'm going to own that desire. It makes your desire in life and your willpower in life more powerful.
I love thinking about flirting with a couple. I've actually never, like, that specifically has never run through my mind of having and not to go anywhere, not to make anything happen necessarily, but to honor the couple as a two and bring in playful energy for the both of them, not in desiring either one of them in a separate way, but them as a unit, and to enliven their relationship through play, because that's essentially what flirting is playing in a really fun way. I can see of a mystery temple or an almost temple as a flirt party. A friend was recently telling me about her and her friends organized a flirt party, and each of them brought 5 of their friends. They were all single, but I actually think it might be fun to do it with couples as well, and have singles and couples in the space and do a whole flirt party. I think we're going to have to host a
flirt party is a great idea. And you can you can choose that in your Mystery Temple experience. You can say, I'm coming to Mystery Temple to flirt and not put out, because that's the energy that I want to have. And that's available. You can totally flirt with someone, lead them on. And then when they ask, you say, no, I just wanted to flirt. And you're going to own that. And that's totally fine. There's something I really like that I discovered in the culture of the South of the US, that sometimes what they do for seating for dinners is they don't let couples sit together. They split them up on purpose. And the reason for it is, first of all, to meet new people and connect. But the idea is that you're encouraged to flirt with each other, even within couples, knowing that there's very firm boundaries around, like, everybody's in their couple, everyone's monogamous, but they flirt because it creates a lot of energy at the table. And then every couple goes home and, has fun. But just to be in that flirty energy is very enlivening. So
I split the couples out at the Christmas party that I went to, the family Christmas party. My family Christmas party split the couples up. Amazing. Yossef, thank you so much for being the first special guest at a Love Club Mastermind, and also in an episode of WeDeepen with Christina. Lauri, it's a pleasure having you here with us today. And Mike, thanks for showing up at the end and sharing your energy with us. Appreciate having you here. And if you are listening, thank you for being a part of the conversation. And we hope to share space with you, because I love that you're getting access to the conversation with us and getting to know us in this way. We want to get to know you and be in the space with you and have you join us in the Love Club. You can see in the show notes all of the information to join us. Love to have you. I love to have your love immersion, an almost temple, a mystery temple. If you are in the Los Angeles area, mystery temple continues to happen on a quarterly basis, about every other month.
We do Mystery Temple every other month, and you can always connect to me also on my Instagram or website to learn a little bit more about what I do and to stay up to date with all the events as well.
Yossef, thank you so much. And thank you all for being here.